Hello and welcome to the Night Feed. I'm your host, Charlotte, here to bring you some company during, let's face it, one of the toughest parts of being a new parent, the Night Feed. Tonight's unpaid sponsor is sleep data. Guys, the last few nights have been tough, which you can probably hear in my voice, and I started wearing my thermometer ring again, which, if you don't know, is a smart ring which was kindly gifted to me last year by the lovely team at Thermometer. I have gotten so much use out of it when I was pregnant, tracking things like sleep and stress. And I've been wearing it again recently. And wow, the data. When you have a bad night and you can kind of convince yourself that you did get some sleep. When you wear your ring, you know that you've actually been awake for 3 consecutive hours from 1 till 3 or 1 till 4, or I can't even do maths today. What's 3 consecutive hours from 1? Oh my goodness me, 1 till 4. Doesn't your brain just go into mush when you're tired? Anyway, so I've been looking at the sleep data and it's really, really interesting. You can see your deep sleep, you can see your light sleep, you can see your awake time. And the reason I started wearing it is because I wanted to see how often the baby wakes. So he's 8 months now and I co-sleep with him, which means that because I'm not getting up and actively going to a cot, picking him up, checking my phone, I'm not really seeing how often he's waking. A lot of the time he wakes, I give him a feed, we stay quite settled, we go back off. And I wanted to know, is he waking 2 times? Is he waking 4 times? So I put my ring back on and it's really, really accurate how he wakes, when he wakes, how long he wakes for. Because there was a night we had a particularly bad night and he was awake for like 2 hours straight. And I remember checking my phone at like 1 and then 2 and then 3 thinking, I can't have been awake this whole time. I must have dozed off at some point. And the ring actually backs up what I was thinking. So it's been really insightful and it's helping me to try and form a bit more of a routine with him. And aside from the sleep, what else it shows is your stress levels. So you have low stress, high stress, and it kind of goes up on a graph. And we had this night about 3 nights ago when I'd fed the baby. He was laying back down to sleep. And I was lying myself back down. You know, and you kind of like hold your breath and you're like, don't move. And you get back to sleep. My head had just hit the pillow. And it was one of those nights where I was super tired. So I was like really ready for this, however many hours I was about to get. At that very moment, my 3-year-old wakes, screaming, having a nightmare. And I don't mean just like, oh, mummy, I mean like night terror. And what usually happens when she wakes is she potters through and gets in bed with me. But this night she was adamant that I had to go to her. This was after the baby had just been awake for an hour. He'd had an hour stretch awake. And I knew getting out of the bed would wake the baby. So I got out of the bed. The baby woke. I went into her room. She was screaming. Her screaming woke her sister up. And there we were, all crying together at about 1:30 a.m. Well, okay, I wasn't crying as well, but I was, on the verge when everyone's awake. And you know that the baby will need the same feeding, rocking, probably a nappy change again. You start the process again. And that morning when I looked at the data of my ring, I could see this like massive spike in stress level at that time in the night. It's amazing. It's amazing how it gets it from your finger. You're like, wow. But yeah, it corroborated with how I was feeling basically. So it's been really interesting looking at that. And I'm really interested in my health as well. I'm 36 now. And I think you get to a point where you think, I really need to start looking after myself for old age. Not that I don't look after myself. I would say I'm a relatively healthy person. I get out walking. I try and eat as well as I can. Don't get me wrong, we all have a takeaway. We love a glass of wine, but it kind of hit me this year that, having young children, you want to be here for them, you want to, not getting too deep, but really look after yourself. And that's kind of another reason I wanted to wear the ring, was to see what my sleep's like, what my stress levels are like. I'm also going to be using it for tracking my periods and my cycles. I know that people use it for a contraceptive measure or for if they're trying to conceive, because I don't love being on the pill. I don't love how that messes my body. I would really like to use this as a means of contraception, tracking your ovulation, tracking your fertility window. So if you are interested, I will drop the link to the ring if you are interested in having a look at it yourself. It's on Amazon, and they have given me a code, which is the Night Feed 20. You get 20% off the price of the ring. It's more affordable than other smart rings on the market. I think it is a good price for what you get. And the app is free, so there's no recurring payment. It's just a one-off purchase, which is also lovely in 2026 when we have subscriptions coming out of our ears. But yeah, I personally have found it useful, and I wouldn't share it with you if I didn't find it useful. I only ever want to share with you things that I have genuinely really enjoyed using. And this past few weeks, I've loved looking at the data. So I just thought, if it's something you're interested in, I'll leave the details for you to have a look. It is February. How did that happen? Where has the last month gone? I don't know. I was ill most of it, as was my baby, so January just kind of passed me by. But I hope you're all keeping well. I hope you've all avoided this mental, flu, weird cold that's going around. I feel like people are getting it to varying degrees. I had it and was probably the most ill I've ever been. And I know other people have had it and it's just been like a cold, but it's a weird formulation of COVID and a flu and something else. But I hope you're all keeping well. And I saw some daffodils poking through in the park the other day, and I was like, it made me realise how ready I am for spring. This year, so done with winter and this Baltic bloody weather, layering up like the Michelin Man just to go for a 5-minute walk. And obviously, if you've got small toddlers as well as your baby, you'll know dressing them to go out anywhere takes an extra 20 minutes when it's freezing, because you've got to find gloves, you've got to find the scarf, you've got to look for the hat. This is me. I put them all in a bag, all in the same bag. Yeah, every single day before school, there's one mitten missing, or there's one snud missing, or there's one hat missing. Today, I just poured the bag on the floor and was like, find a glove. But yeah, I'm looking forward to t-shirt weather. I'm looking forward to being just able to go out, not worry about how many cardigans and fleeces and layers the children and the baby have got on. Yeah, bring on spring, I say. Tonight, I've decided to do a deep dive on a topic that I get so many messages about. Emails, messages always come through on this topic, and I don't speak about it as often because I don't like to repeat the same topics. But I've had an email come through this week, and I thought, you know what, I'm gonna actually look at the research on this. I'm going to look at the science. I'm going to break down this topic that causes so much controversy online. Out of probably all baby topics, sleep training. And is sleep training, or cry it out, I know that's a type of sleep training, is it actually harmful? What does it actually do? And it's not usually something you decide calmly. You don't sit down with a cup of tea with your partner and say, right, tonight feels like a good night to think about sleep training. It's more like this. It's late, your baby's crying, you're standing outside the door, your phone is in your hand, you're timing intervals if you're trying this, and you're Googling through tears, is cry it out harmful? And what you're really asking is, am I about to do something that hurts my baby, or am I already being hurt by not doing it? And if that's you tonight, I'm really glad you're here, because whatever your opinion on this is, We've all got an opinion on this. Your opinion's welcome here. It's a non-judgment zone. I think we've all got our reasons for looking into it. We've all got our reasons for not wanting to do it or wanting to do it. And I am not here to judge. I am here to share the research I found and the evidence I found this week while doing a bit of research on this extremely divisive topic. So the email says that sparked my deep dive. It says, "Hi, I'm writing this at 2:17 a.m. to be precise, while my baby is finally asleep beside me, and I can't stop thinking about sleep training. My baby is just over 5 months old, and everyone around me seems to have an opinion. Friends, family, even strangers online say things like, 'You need to teach them to sleep,' or if you don't do it now, you'll regret it. Part of me wants to try some form of sleep training because I'm exhausted in a way I didn't know was possible. I feel foggy, short-tempered, and I don't like myself anymore. I know I need to need more sleep to be a better mum. But another part of me feels sick at the thought of hearing my baby cry and not going in straight away. I lie there wondering if I'm ignoring my instincts or worse, hurting our bond. I keep Googling, is cry out harmful, and getting completely overwhelmed. One article says it's fine, another says it causes lifelong damage, and I end up feeling more anxious than before. I guess my question is, how do you decide? How do you know if you're doing what's right for your baby or just what everyone tells you to do? I don't know what the answer is. I just know I'm tired and I want to do right by my baby. Thanks for reading." I completely get you. I think most mums have been through this debate in their head. And I think what doesn't help is the amount of peer pressure and opinions on the topic. It is so divisive. And what I think causes a constant back and forth on this for mums in our generation in particular is social media. On the one side, you've got videos that say, "My 6-month-old now sleeps through from 7 till 7 after I followed this simple plan." Then you have videos that tell you leaving your baby to cry out at all causes damage, and there's so much noise. And let's not forget, there's a whole industry around baby sleep. There are sleep consultants all over Instagram, and I'm not saying they're bad, I'm not saying they're good, I'm saying we have to take what we see with a pinch of salt. Because some of these videos about my baby sleeps through 7 till 7 by following this simple plan, it's marketing. They want you to buy the plan. Maybe it does work. Maybe that baby does actually sleep through after the parent followed that plan. But what does the plan entail? You know, what are they trying to get from you here? And I think it's very important to remember that what you're seeing and what you're consuming on social media isn't always wholeheartedly the truth. There are people out there trying to make you buy things, whether that is to sleep train or whether that's not to sleep train. There are so many digital products now. And I do think you have to take some of these videos with a pinch of salt. So, why is the question around sleep training everywhere for our generation? Because I think back in the day, there was none of this. I think mums just did their own thing and went about the business. You know, I don't think in the war, when I'd always talk about the war, I don't know why I go back to that time, but I just feel like that was a hard time for mothers. It must have been, mustn't it? You have your baby, probably their sleep patterns and their sleep training weren't top of that mother's list. They were probably not in a routine. They probably slept when they slept, whether that was in a pram outside, whether that was in a Lincoln shelter, air raid shelter, I don't know. But nowadays it's so nuanced and so like, oh, you can't go to the supermarket between 10 and 12 because that's when your baby sleeps, and you can't break that routine because that will damage them and blah, blah, blah. There's just so much noise around it. And I hope if you're a newborn mum listening to this, you feel a sense of relief, because let me tell you now, every baby's different. Every baby has different sleep needs. You know, I've got friends who had their first baby, slept through all night from like 3 weeks old. And I was like, what am I doing wrong? But then the same friends had another baby who didn't sleep very well. And you're like, oh, it's not me, it's the different babies all having different sleep needs. So there's so much nuance nowadays that people 60, 70 years ago would never even contemplated. They wouldn't have known what time the baby naps. They just go with the flow. So I think this question, it hasn't exploded because parents suddenly became confused. It's exploded because parents nowadays, I think, are exhausted. I think our generation has different battles to back in the day. I think nowadays we have to contend with short maternity leave, less support, no village, and a culture that tells mums to fix sleep as quickly as possible, like it's just some kind of problem that you can fix. Like when you spill the milk, you have to clean it up. It's like treating baby sleep like something that you can just plug something into and it will work for you. And social media, doesn't help. Like I said, someone says never let your baby cry out ever, and the other one says they're fine, they need to learn. And then there's very little space in the middle for nuance or guilt or real life. It's all very much one road or the other. So what do people actually mean by cry it out? And I think one of the hardest things about this debate is that cry it out isn't one thing. For some people, it's gentle. It means pausing before going back in or sitting next to their cot, reassuring them. They call it I can't remember it. The chair method, maybe, where the mother will sit next to the cot, hold the baby's hand, gradually move the chair further to the door over a week, and then leave the room. But then you've got the other ones that do the time check-ins where it's like 3 minutes, 2 minutes, 4 minutes, I don't know. And then there's the other method where it's full extension, where you just leave the baby. But most parents aren't doing this because they think it's cool to have a baby that sleeps through. They're doing it because they're choosing survival. And we have to remember that. I think that matters. So what does the science say? Let's talk about the research without weaponizing the research. Okay, so over the last decade, there have been several well-designed studies looking at behavioural sleep interventions, including controlled crying. I hate that phrase, controlled crying. I just think it's so... The thought of having a baby controlled cry is... Anyway, so yeah, these sleep interventions with controlled crying. And when researchers have actually measured attachment, they found no difference between babies who were sleep trained and those who weren't. No increase in insecure attachment, no difference in emotional or behavioural outcomes later on. But that doesn't mean that sleep training is right for everyone, and it doesn't mean the research is perfect. But it does mean that the idea that a loving, responsive parent permanently damages attachment by using a time-limited sleep intervention is not supported by good evidence. So it's basically saying that attachment isn't built in one night. It's built over thousands of moments, like cuddles, comfort, and repair in those relationships. What about stress and cortisol? Because if you're anything like me, you'll have seen studies on cortisol spiking in babies when it comes to sleep training. So this is often said with absolute certainty, but the reality is more complicated. So when cortisol has been measured in sleep training studies, it hasn't shown a clear pattern of long-term harm. That doesn't mean that babies don't experience stress. Crying is obviously a stress response, but stress on its own is not the same as damage. So babies experience stress during vaccinations, during car seat transitions. Oh my goodness, my baby boy hates the car. He is crying because he's stressed about the car. Side note, we changed the car seat and things are getting better. But yeah, they also experience stress during separation at daycare. So what matters most is the overall relationship and whether stress is followed by comfort and connection. And then I think there's a part that no one says out loud. And I think this is something that rarely gets said, that some mums cannot tolerate hearing their baby cry, and that matters. And some mums are so depleted that sleep deprivation is pushing them towards anxiety, rage, or despair, and that matters too. The harm isn't the method, it's the shame. I think it's the shame that mothers get either way. Being told you're selfish for wanting sleep, or heartless for not going in, or being told there is one morally correct way to parent, regardless of your body, your mental health, your support system. And that's what's hurting mums. There's always going to be people on either side of this debate. You'll be listening to this. Some of you will be adamantly against it. Some of you will say, well, it saved me when I was in the depths of postpartum depression because I wasn't getting sleep. I had to do something. And over 3 nights, I tried something and it changed my life. There are two sides to this. Multiple sides to this. People that do something kind of in the middle. And I think what we need to do is not be pitted against each other for trying something only with good intentions. So maybe a different question we don't need to ask, is it harmful? Is quite out harmful? Maybe the question is what support do you have right now? How are you coping? What feels sustainable for you in this season? And what helps both of you and the baby feel safe? Parenting choices don't exist in like some kind of vacuum where we all have one size fits all. They exist, well, firstly, inside exhausted bodies. No matter what you're going through, if you have a newborn a baby under a year, a baby under 5, if you ask me, but you are going to be tired. You are going to be tired. And it's how that tiredness affects you. Some people are happy to have no routine and co-sleep and see what happens and don't worry too much. Other people are going back to work after 3 months and cannot function or drive without any sleep. So they have to try something. And I think it's giving each other permission. It's, if you're listening to this and you're in the middle of this decision, I want to offer you some permission. You're allowed to try something and change your mind. You're allowed to decide not to decide tonight. You're allowed to prioritize your mental health. You're allowed to follow your instincts. You don't have to solve sleep on one night. You just have to take one night at a time, I think. So I'd really love to hear where you land on this emotionally. Have you tried it? Have you had a go at this? Have you, from day one, decided, no, it's not for me? I know there are so many videos on this. I think there was an influencer did I can't remember who it was. She did like a 3-part series on TikTok, night 1, night 2, night 3 of training a baby, and I think she had a positive outcome, that it was okay, but it got a lot of backlash, and that's, in my mind, where the problem lies. Sorry, I'm just whispering a little bit because my little chappie's about to wake up. My baby, by the way, is still contact napping. I'm here talking about sleep routines, and he is having his lovely morning contact nap on me while I record the podcast. But yeah, I think you have to go with your own gut and decide what's going to be right for everybody in the family, because there are some people who are on maternity leave for a year and aren't too affected by sleep because they can sleep in the day and they kind of get through. There are other people who have to go back to work after 3 months in intense careers, have babies that don't sleep and need an intervention. And I think, like this scientific research has said, as long as that baby is loved and has that secure attachment and knows that you're there and you're not just going to abandon them, then it's okay to explore options. I myself have looked at this. I mean, I think I've talked about it in another episode. We did a kind of gentle training with my eldest, because I think when it's your first baby, you fall into the trap of hearing people say, oh, my baby sleeps 7 till 7, and oh, I just let them cry, it's fine, and oh, they sleep through now, and oh, well, my baby's bottle fed, so he sleeps through, you're breastfed, so they won't, and oh my God, these opinions and opinions around sleep. We did a form of gentle where we kind of lay it down and calmed her, left her for a little bit, and I was just in with her really. I didn't really do the intervals much. But what did help me the most when it came to any form of sleep routine or training is understanding wake windows. So if you're in the depths and you're really struggling, have a look at your baby's recommended wake windows. So if they are 3 months, type that into Google, 3 months example wake windows, they'll come up. And it kind of gives you a gauge of how long your baby needs to be awake before the first nap. And understanding that really, really helps. Like, I know my boy's 8 months. He wakes about 7, half 7. He has his first nap about 9, half 9. It's about 11. Then he has his next nap between half 1 and 2. And then after he wakes from that, he doesn't go to sleep till bedtime at about 7. And that has established a good level of sleep for him. He's tired when it comes to his nap. He's tired when it comes to bedtime. That's without me doing any form of quiet out or sleep training, because he's still fed to sleep on me at 8 months. And that's just me going with my flow. Some people would hear that and be like, oh God, I can't do that because my baby's going to daycare at 6 months. So what am I going to do? We're all in different boats. And that is what's really important when it comes to sleep training, is understanding that every mum out there has their own battle or their own problems with sleep or their own issues around sleep training, or isn't worried about it because it's okay and her baby's okay. You know, some babies are born and they sleep through. Like I said, every baby's different and it's not anything you're doing wrong. But like I said, my advice around sleep, if you're going to start anywhere, start with wake windows and just getting a bit of an understanding of the baby's sleep pressure and how long they need to be awake before their first nap, dependent on their age, because it obviously changes as they get older. But like I said, I'd really love to hear your thoughts on this. If you drop me a comment, if you listen on Spotify, or drop me an email, thenightfeedpodcast@gmail.com. I'd love to read out some of your responses next week. We'll have another little touch on this. And if anyone's done this successfully or decided against this, let me know. Let me know your experiences and I will read them out next week. Before I go tonight, my self-care tip is to create a closing ritual for your day. I saw this online. I thought it was quite a nice idea. So it's not a routine. It's not like a self-care skincare routine, not a checklist. It's just a closing. So once a day, usually in the evening or after the baby is down, do one small repeated action that signals to your nervous system, I'm done being needed for a minute, for a moment. It might be something like turning on the lamp instead of the overhead light and dimming your room, making the same warm drink and just holding the mug with both hands and having a minute, reflecting on the day or whatever. Sitting on the edge of the bed and just taking some slow breaths, or putting on a specific song that you wind down to. It doesn't have to be anything intense. It doesn't have to be anything, mentally challenging. Just something that signals to your body, okay, this is my time now. Because I know as a mum, we are kind of on 24/7. And that's even when we're getting help with our lovely partners. We still are kind of switched on 24/7. So having that moment to be like, okay, that's my day done now. I'm ready for my pause. And it's just a kind of containment. Like I said, new motherhood, it doesn't have any edges. The day bleeds into the night. The nights bleed into the morning. Your body never really gets the message that it's allowed to stand down for a minute. And it's a tiny ritual that gives your brain a little boundary. Even if the baby wakes 5 minutes later, your nervous system has had a moment of, okay, you can calm, you can stand down. And over time, that moment will add up. So, it's not glamorous. It's just incredibly regulating, shall we say. And it's your little ritual that belongs to you and helps your body sort of recover in between the constant, let's say. Finally, to finish on a quote I wrote, "Dear Day One Me, right now you're holding the tiniest, most bewildering little person you've ever met. You're sore, you're tired, and you're wondering if you're even doing this right. 8 weeks from now, you'll be less tired. But you'll still be tired, let's be honest. You'll also be a little stronger. You'll know which cry means I'm hungry and which one means I just need to be held. You'll be able to change a nappy in the dark, half asleep, without thinking. The baby, who seems impossibly fragile now, will soon stretch and kick and lock eyes with you in ways that make your heart ache. You'll see the first hint of a smile and it will be yours. So breathe, drink some water, eat something, even if it's just a biscuit in one hand while you feed with the other. Let the dishes wait, let the laundry be. Right now, you are learning each other, and that is work. You are doing beautifully, I promise. Love, 8-week you." Thank you for listening this evening. I hope you enjoyed my deeper dive this evening on a topic that can be very controversial. If you have any other topics that you would love to hear more insights on, I'm actually enjoying doing this research. Like I said, it's coming from a mom, not a doctor or a psychologist. This is just the cold hard facts that I'm looking at online, and I'm trying to tell them to you as objectively as I can, because I know we're all in different boats. But yeah, if you have any topics you'd like a deeper dive on, email me, thenightfeedpodcast@gmail.com, and I wish you all a restful, peaceful, hopefully relaxing night ahead. Good night.